we often hear so much anytime Antifa is brought up in the United States that it's an idea, not an organization. And, I've seen enough videos of people all dressed in black, I guess the black bloc. Uh, they look pretty organized when they get together and burn shit down. Uh, what's your response to that? The idea versus an organization.
So that was first said in part by the head of the FBI, Christopher Wray, last year, and then it was popularized, if you will, by then candidate Joe Biden during a debate. And you've seen it now kind of repeated by a lot of people like Joe Behar and others as well. The statement on its own is actually not incorrect, but it's incomplete. So in addition to being an ideology, Antifa is an ideology of anarchist communism, it's also a movement, and this movement is made up of networks of groups and cells and individuals who mobilize and organize around the ideology. So just because there is no single one Antifa capital A group, that doesn't mean that you don't treat it in the same way as, in my view, as you would other organized criminal cells, because the information and intel that they gather from one riot to the next is shared in their networks. They travel, and I cite all my evidence for this in Unmasked. You can see that, for example, during the riots that occurred in 2020, some of the people that were arrested in Kenosha, Wisconsin, came from the Pacific Northwest. They came all the way from Portland or Seattle. Some of them then went on to DC. Some of them went on to Louisville as well. And when the riots were ongoing in Portland for more than 120 days, many of the people who were arrested were from out of state. So it's organized. And I think people are getting caught up on the ideology thing. I think to make it maybe more, to draw an analogy that people can understand, like if somebody says neo-Nazism is an ideology, and then my response is, it's just an idea, it's not a problem, I don't think people would accept that as a fair response. Like, yeah, it's an idea that various people organize around. There are neo-Nazi and far-right extremist groups that organize around that ideology and carry out criminal acts, intimidation, harassment, and sometimes murder. So you have to think of it in that same way, which is when the times that I've had the opportunity to give testimony to either the House or the Senate, I always try to really explain this to the Democrats, but I'm always ignored and sometimes demonized.
Yeah, some of the weirdest things I remember seeing on Twitter, where you would have, blue check mark, very popular broadcasters and journalists putting this meme of basically U.S. soldiers storming the beaches of Normandy and calling them, saying they were Antifa too. But in my mind, anytime that I think of Antifa, I always just think of images of, again, people in all black, basically breaking the windows of a Starbucks. And for me, I don't see the connection, storming the beaches of Normandy and busting open a Starbucks or a Citibank.